Good morning again. We're going to be discussing community and as it relates to police brutality and misconduct. I have been watching videos after videos after videos concerning police brutality and conduct. And one is I don't deny, as an African American man, that racial profiling is prevalent in our society as well as in our community. I don't neither deny the fact that police brutality exists as well as police misconduct. Basically, I wanted to take this time to make some suggestions to those who experience it because I've experienced it. Many times there's times where we are pulled over for absolutely no reason at all, just because of the color of our skin, or we're in the so-called quote unquote wrong neighborhood at the wrong time of night. All of these things are happening, and as an apostle, don't deny those things. But here's some things that you can do to avoid escalating confrontation with the police. First and foremost, we understand about our First Amendment right. We understand about our Second Amendment right. We understand about all of our civil rights that we that are now being constantly violated each day by officers of the law. The unfortunate thing is many times when I watch these videos, I see two things happening. I see at times where where at times we can agitate policemen to profile us or to uh, cause us issues or stalk us or things of that sort by when they ask us to leave, we don't leave. You know, even if it's a public facility, it may not be a law that says that we have to leave the public facility or that we cannot video at a public facility, whether it be a governmental building or a park or whatever the case may be. But you cannot adjudicate those kinds of cases on the streets or in the community because one, you're going to lose. You're going to lose big and you might lose your life. The way to adjudicate those kind of cases is get video footage of the officer requesting you to leave, and do your best not to escalate it. Follow his orders, and then file a complaint with his police with his supervisor or station, and then you also can file a civil lawsuit for violation of your civil rights. One, the right to bear arms, the other is the right to a free press. The other thing that I've seen in these videos constantly is that African American people are constantly wanting to escalate the situation by spouting off their civil rights on the community streets, as well as cursing at the policemen and things of that sort. We only cause more problems for ourselves when we don't obey the police order. If the police ask you to exit the vehicle, exit the vehicle. You know, is it not okay to video the confrontation? No, it's definitely okay and it's definitely warranted to video the confrontation. But if you saying that you plead the fifth and that you're going to exercise your right to remain silent, then remain silent. Don't begin to curse and threaten the policemen and stuff like that, because basically you're going to escalate it. You're going to escalate the situation where it can cause you bodily harm or death. And a lot of folks say, well, you just don't understand. Yes, I do, because I'm a black man and I've been pulled over by policemen many times. And sometimes it's just because I was in the wrong neighborhood. I've driven people home as being an Uber driver in certain areas where many of us is not at. And because it's late at night, I got followed all the way out the city limits. So I understand about racial profiling. And when the police pulls me over, my answer is yes, sir, no, sir. I give him my license and I give him my information and go on about my business. A lot of times I've been hearing on the video, well, I don't have to give you my identification. That's not going to be a good thing and not going to be a good day for you, because you only asking to escalate a situation where, one, you're snatched out of the car, windows broken, or you're beaten for resisting arrest. You have to learn the laws of your state. You have to learn the laws of your state. Police has a certain level of power, especially when it comes to making arrests or encountering you on the streets of your community. The community is not the place to adjudicate wrongdoings of the police officer. The thing that you got to focus on, people, is that you got to go home. You want to go home and you want to be able to get away with your life. Live another day, battle another day, war another day. Amen. Where you'll be on equal playing field with the police, and that is through the court system. That's where everybody's rights are adjudicated, except for those mock courts that you have in these municipalities and these counties. I've been looking at video after video after video, so I know what's going on both sides of the fence. I believe also that policemen are escalating incidents because we have the wrong people with badges on. But you cannot solve the issue by trying to adjudicate the issue on the community streets. The way you solve the issue of police brutality is through the vote. You vote the sheriff out, you vote the police chief out, and you do that during the primaries. But if you don't vote, then you giving up your civil rights. What do you mean? Well, no, I'm not. Yes, you are, because you're allowing them to put people in office that don't care about you. They don't care whether you live or whether you die. So when those primary races come about, when they voting for your county offices and they voting for your policemen, the policing and the mayor's office, those are the important things that we need to learn to vote for. Because when we don't go to those primary races and we don't exercise our rights there, then don't think you can exercise your rights on the community streets, because you're going to lose. You're going to lose because guess what? The mayor is on the side of the police chief. The police chief is on the side of the sergeant, and so on and so forth, all the way down to the traffic cops. They're all in cahoots together. The only way you're going to change the narrative is to change it by using the power of vote. Yes, protesting is good, and I believe in it wholeheartedly. I believe you should exercise your rights to protest. But the fact remains, the biggest thing, we don't have to protest like Martin Luther King did. Martin Luther King was protesting for us to have our civil rights. We have civil rights, but we got to exercise them properly. And we have to use the law to exercise those civil rights. And you cannot adjudicate any case against a police officer while he has the power over you and your life on the streets. That's not the place to do it. We have to learn to use some kind of wisdom when dealing with the police on the street, because we can avoid a lot of brutality issues if we just cooperate then and deal with the fight tomorrow. Amen. And I know a lot of times folks say, well, I don't want to give up my rights and I'm going to do what I do. But then you're going to be dead or in prison, because policemen is never going to stop doing trumped up charges, and they never going to stop brutalizing you or profiling you until we learn how to, as a people, exercise our civil rights at the polls. That's where your voice counts, in your municipality and in your community and in your state. But what we've been doing is we're trying to carry the cart before the horse, and we're losing the battle because we're trying to reinvent the wheel. We have to learn that, one, if they don't like you, you ain't gonna change their heart. Only God can. And if they don't like you, your important stance is to make sure that you use your civil rights at the polls to vote them out of office. We have a primary race that's coming up in next year in 2018. In this race, mayor's office comes up for vote. The Senate office comes up for vote. The congressman office comes up for vote. And a lot of the municipalities and community offices come up for vote. We have to stop voting people in that don't speak our interests. I'm going to say that again. We need to stop voting people in that don't speak our interests. We got to stop trying to eat the crumbs from the master's table. If master is master, he ain't going to change. Only way you're going to change the narratives, you got to get master out of the office. And now you have the power to do that. Finally, I want to talk about community, because it's important that we understand as people, as African American people, that the only way we can change the narratives of our community is we got to change how we use our economic power. We're spending too much of our money supporting businesses that don't look or support our interests. When it comes to African American businesses, we don't patronize them, nor do we support them. And we are giving our economic power for them that's of another persuasion to make laws that we have to follow. The only way we're going to change the narratives in our own community is, one, rechannel our resources. Rechannel our resources. Women, you have to stop going to the Arabs to spend your money to support them, that they're supporting politicians that's making laws that's causing problems in your neighborhood. You can open up the same kinds of businesses that they open up. It may be difficult, but you can. Men, you got to stop supporting businesses that are not African owned or that is not black owned businesses. We want to change the narratives, and we are trying to plead to the master to do it. When have at any time in the time of slavery where a master ever cared about his slaves? He didn't care how you live. He didn't care what you eat, and he didn't care certainly what about your kids and about your future. We have a great economic power as being African American people, but we don't use that economic power to our advantage. That is from the Hollywood stars all the way down to the working class, all the way down to the poor working class. We don't use our economic power right. So that's why we got laws that are against us. That's why we got our young men that are dying on the streets, because we're not using our economic power. We don't lobby, which we should. We don't raise up our own politicians to run for office, which we should. If we even begin to do those two things, then we change the narratives of our community and how we're treated in our community, because now we're in position to make the laws.
Work together.
So the thing we have to understand is, one, we as a people have to stop being jealous of each other. We got to stop hating on each other and come together economically, physically, and emotionally. And until we do that, then we're never going to change the narratives in our community. We don't love each other. And we can try to deny all we want the fact that black on black crime don't exist. It exists. We commit genocide every day with our own people and our own young men and young women. We don't look out for each other. We often talk about police brutality, but what about black brutality? We have to stop killing each other. We got to stop selling the white man's drugs in our neighborhood. Because we always use the thing about, we always use the saying as, we ain't got boats and we ain't got planes, so we not flying the stuff in. But guess what? Just because it's flown in, that don't mean it have to be spreaded in our community. We can say no to drugs. We can say no to the drug dealers. Because if they don't want to live like we want to live, then we can stop patronizing them and making them rich. The other thing is that we have to learn as a people that if you high all the time, you're not thinking. It is a psychological fact that the brain, when it's high on drugs and alcoholism, is impaired to think correctly and coherently. So it is important that we learn that we got to get our kids away from the weed. It's not killing them physically, it's killing them economically. Because if they high, they can't get a college education. If they high, they can't get a good job. If they high, they can't maintain a good job. If they high, they cannot take care of their children that they're creating. If they're high, they ain't thinking about voting because they're at home getting high. But that is the untold secret. It is always meant that if I keep the black man high, keep him fed and keep him high, I ain't got to worry about him. And I'm going to make rules to destroy him. And it's happening in our neighborhoods. First, we got to deal with the drug problem. Then we can deal with the next thing, is the derelict housing in our neighborhoods. How in the world can we change the narrative in our community when you go from one house and you see the next house is boarded up? Then you go from that house and then the next house is boarded up. The grass is ran down, the parks are tore up, and our kids can't have no place to play. But if you go out into these suburban areas, and in my state, Missouri, in St. Louis, Missouri, the suburban areas of Frontenac, Ladue, and Chesterfield, and O'Fallon and St. Charles and all those different places, they don't have liquor stores on every corner of the community. The liquor stores are in the strip malls. But if you look in our community in the city of St. Louis, it's a liquor store on every corner. And it is a business on every corner that's not black owned. We patronizing their filling stations. We patronizing their Chinese food restaurants. We patronizing their malls. And we have the economic power if we come together to change the narrative of our community. I speak to you leaders, you educated Negroes. And I say Negroes because sometimes we act like Negroes. You didn't get where you had to go on your own. somebody gave you an opportunity. And if somebody hadn't given you an opportunity, you wouldn't be where you at today. Somebody opened up the door. First it was God, and God using man to open the door for you. So if you're rich right now, you need to get out of your pride. Because if nobody would have gave you an opportunity, you wouldn't have the wealth that you have. And you need to reach back and help some of these young men and young women that are trying in business. You can't use the scenario of the narrative that they don't want to be rich, because that's not just true. Nobody wants to be in poverty. Nobody wants to live in poverty, and you can't assume everybody is a deadbeat. Open up more incubators where small businesses have a place to come affordable. Because when you're a small business, you ain't got the money to pay no $700-800 a month on no incubator space. You need a place where you can come and have an office and a little desk where you can be able to get open your business and be able to do some things in your community. But when you are blessed and you got that big office and you got that high rise, then reach back to your community and begin to work together to try to strengthen your community. One, getting rid of the derelict housing. So these are the things that we have to do in order to change our narrative. Guess what?
The area also. Make sure everything picked up, make sure everything's clean, make sure everything is cut like it's supposed to be on some of these neighborhoods.
If we don't learn to respect ourselves, then why would you expect the police to respect us? We don't care about ourselves. As long as we keep hating on ourselves, keep hating on each other, keep destroying our communities with drugs and alcoholism and violence and having babies out of wedlock and mothers on welfare, guess what? The police are not going to respect you. Guess what? When they in Missouri, they respect the people in Chesterfield. They respect the people in Frontenac. You know why? You know why? Because the people respect themselves. Let's begin by changing our narratives, by respecting ourselves and looking at what we can do in order to strengthen our community. And first and foremost, we have to use the power of the vote. That's the only way we're going to change our perspective. God bless you. This is Apostle Trotter and Prophetess Dineen of GHMI 5-4 Fellowship. May the Lord bless you. Bye-bye.